And we get started here with the third step prayer. Rob, thank you, sir.
Which you can find at 60-year guide. I offer myself to thee, to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always.
Excellent. Thanks again, Rob. All right. We are on page 127, about halfway down. We'll go one paragraph up.
Okay. The head of the house.
Yep, the head of the house.
Page 127, everybody. The head of the house ought to remember that he is mainly to blame for what befell his home. He can scarcely square the account of it in his lifetime, but he must see the danger of over-concentration on financial success. Although financial recovery is on the way for many of us, we found we could not place money first. For us, material well-being always followed spiritual progress. It never preceded.
Right. And that is, as we've talked about, that last sentence is a warning. For us, material well-being always followed spiritual progress. It never preceded. And what we're doing is basically talking here about the overemphasis and focus on the financial well-being of the family, and not focusing on the spiritual or the more nurturing side of things with regard to the family. And that is something that is common once we have an alcoholic that's in recovery. They immediately try to shore up their financial problems, and they do that at the expense of the emotional and family type needs and wants. So, Rob?
Yeah, anything we put in front of our spiritual progress, we will lose. So if we go, remember, if you go to work, you try to earn money and put that ahead of spiritual, we're going to lose it. We'll end up going back to drinking, or there's a good chance. This is a warning that has been put in. And mark beside there, page 217. And when you get a chance, go to page 217. I've read it last week, so I won't do it again this week. But it also references about, putting financial before spiritual. Since a home has suffered more than anything else, it is well that a man exert himself there. He is not likely to get far in any direction if he fails to show unselfishness and love under his own roof. We know there are difficult wives and families, but the man who is getting over alcoholism must remember he did much to make them so.
Right. And this is just basically saying that the recovering alcoholic of the family created a lot of the issues and the challenges and the problems that have befell the family. And he is not likely to get far in any direction if he fails to show unselfishness and love under his own roof. That's basically, if you take the opposite of that, somebody's being very selfish and self-centered and only focused on themselves, and that is a problem with trying to mend the relationship that you had previously with your family, and now needs a lot of work. Rob?
Yeah. Um, you know, what happens is that a lot of times, we go out and we know we have to help other alcoholics, and our families feel like they're being neglected. So it's a balancing act. They always talk about the pie that we have to divide so evenly. Well, I've never been able to divide my pie evenly. It's always been, one huge slice over here, one little teeny tiny slice over there. But we are trying to get some balance in our lives. And we can't neglect our family. You know what? We neglected them for so long, while we were in our cups. So now we have to, look after them, you know? But we have to integrate ourselves back into the family, and then we're gonna get it through doing. Bill's gonna help us out here on how we can integrate ourselves back into the family, because we've been in our cups. The family has gone on and they've done their own thing. They've forgotten about us at times. Why? Because we're in no shape to be involved in their lives. If the kids are playing baseball, they don't want their drunk father there or drunk mother. We embarrass them, so we get left to the side a little bit. So we're gonna have to learn to integrate ourselves back into the family. But that also means that the family have to make changes too in order to have us be part of that. As each member of a resentful family begins to see his shortcomings and admits them to the other, he lays the basis for helpful discussion. These family talks will be constructive if they can be carried on without heated argument, self pity, self justification, or resentful criticism. Little by little, mother and children will see that they ask too much, and father will see that he gives too little. Giving rather than getting will become the guiding principle.
Yeah, so this is one of those is a challenge. Good communication is a very difficult thing to achieve, but if it is achieved, it's actually very, very good. So they're taking a positive kind of approach to this as each member of a resentful family begins to see his shortcomings and admits them to the others. This is trying to say, here are my resentments. I'm having a hard time dealing with them here. I'm putting them out here so that we can discuss them. It lays the basis for a helpful discussion. All right, so that is a difficult thing to do. We all want to be heard, but at the same time, being heard sometimes, for fear of retaliation or somebody shutting you down or belittling what you might have as a resentful as a feeling, that type of thing, and so you're reserved, and so taking a positive on this, it would be good if the recovering alcoholic were to help mediate and facilitate that open discussion. That is a good sign that the recovering alcoholic is actually on the right path. The Little by little, okay, so there's going to be some, it's going to take a little time, baby steps at first, but um, the idea here is that we're trying to create a balance between work and play and family. And there's got to be a balance there, and opening up and talking about it is a first step. But it is a very challenging one, and one that takes a lot of work and a lot of trust, which may not be there, and that's something that has to be built as well. Rob?
Yeah, on page 127, these family talks will be constructive if, please remember, if they can be carried on without heated argument, self pity, self justification, or resentful criticism. Good luck. But Bill's already given us a fix for that. And so let's go to page 118 for a moment. Okay? Because this is where we can use this. And it's the third line down from the top of the page. Next time you and he have a heated discussion, no matter what the subject, it should be the privilege of either to smile and say, "This is getting serious. I'm sorry I got disturbed. Let's talk about it later." If your husband is trying to live on a spiritual basis, he will also be doing everything in his power to avoid disagreement or contention. We can use that for the family. You know what? If somebody's getting upset, can we take a break from it? Can we pause? Pray and use step 11. We can take a moment, because nothing gets solved when there's anger, when there's art, nothing gets solved. So pause. If you don't know, pause is one of my favorite things that I learned from this book.
Yep.
Why? Because it keeps me out of situations that normally I say something, and I remind myself 2 to 3 times a day, if not more, Rob, pause. Okay, before you say or do something that might upset somebody else. I don't want to upset people. It's not, but I have in the past because I've said something that I thought was humorous, or I said something off the cuff, and not realizing that I was going to hurt somebody. Now I try to take a moment, step back from the situation, and say, "Hey, it was what I'm going to say going to hurt somebody's feelings? And if it is it worth me saying? Do they need to hear it? You know." But I digress. We're at the top of page 128, everybody. Oh, and the other thing is giving rather than getting will become the guiding principle. Are we givers or are we takers? We've been selfish and self-centered. We've been takers. What can I do for you so that you will owe me? Okay? Or what can I get from Leo today? You know, hey Leo, you got an extra 20 bucks?
Mhm.
Or I try to take advantage or manipulate things. Today, I had a meeting with a sponsee yesterday, and he was telling he has trouble with the God idea. But what he was saying is that what would love have me do in this situation? I say, what would God have me do in this situation? He has found that if he said, you know, what would love have me do in this situation? If I do it out of the kindness of my heart, because he has trouble with God, that's fine, you know. But that works for him. For me, it's what would God have me do in this situation? So we're at the top of page 128, everybody. Great to have everybody here. Assume, on the other hand, the father has, at the outset, a stirring spiritual experience. Overnight, as it were, he is a different man. He becomes a religious enthusiast. He is unable to focus on anything else. As soon as his sobriety begins to be taken as a matter of course, the family may look at their strange new dad with apprehension, then with irritation. There is talk about spiritual matters morning, noon, and night. He may demand that the family find God in a hurry, or exhibit amazing indifference to them, and say he is above worldly consideration.
Mm.
He may tell mother, who has been religious all her life, that she doesn't know what it's all about, and that she had better get his brand of spirituality while there is yet time.
Yes, this is a frustrating kind of position, especially given that you've got the recovering alcoholic getting spiritual and then also getting some type of religion, mixing in that with little else to have left over. The morning, noon, and night discussions can be off-putting, and it is something that is a challenge for everybody to endure. Again, good open lines of communication, family meetings where they're sitting down and you're able to voice some of your resentments and that type of thing, and they can be freely spoken about and then also received, and that's a big part of it as well, is important here. And in doing so, will help to overcome some of this spirituality that has taken over so much of the alcoholic's life at this point. I find that things get tempered over time, but it just it's a matter of patience and trying to find that balance. Rob?
Yeah, there are people that have a better grasp on religious ideas. They think they've grown up in it. I personally did not grow up in a religious background. So a lot of the ideas that a lot of people have, a lot of the prejudices I didn't have, because I didn't know anything. I did go to school, but I wasn't. We colored and we played with glue, basically. So a lot of things I didn't know about. Dr. Bob had a very, very religious upbringing. His mother sent him to bed at 5 o'clock every night. Then what did he do? He snuck out of the house. When, but his father was a Sunday school teacher, so he had, you know, he was at church quite often. And when he got older, said that, when he was of age, he would not darken the doors of a church again. Fitz Mayo, he was the son of a minister. So these are people that are, you see through the book, who have real religious upbringing, but they're prejudiced, and their prejudices of what God is, you know, cut them off. So what did Bill come up with? Well, it wasn't Bill coming up with it, but supposedly Jimmy Burwell, a God of your understanding. What type of God would you want? What type of God should you have in your life? If you could pick the God in your life, what would that God be? Not what you have heard or what you have been taught. What do you want God to be in your life, or your higher power, whichever works for you? You know, when father takes his tack, the family may react unfavorably. They may be jealous of a God who has stolen dad's affections. While grateful that he drinks no more, they may not like the idea that God has accomplished the miracle where they failed. They often forget father was beyond human aid. They may not see why their love and devotion did not straighten him out. That is not so spiritual after all, they say. If he means to right his past wrongs, why all this concern for everyone in the world but his family? What about his talk that God will take care of them? They suspect father is a bit balmy.
Yeah. Again, this is also a difficult thing to kind of make the connecting the dots, and that is that the alcoholic was beyond human aid, and so no matter how hard everybody tried, it just wasn't going to be. And with this spiritual experience and having had this higher power come into their lives and be able to do what they couldn't do otherwise, should be looked upon in a positive as opposed to a negative. And that's where where that difficult part comes in, and it makes it so that you've really got to be on your game and really be good at communicating and really open to other people's input. And you've got to build a basis of trust in order to be able to get to this point that they're talking about here, um, and uh, um, and be able to get over this initial kind of shock, if you will, with regard to all of the talk of God and higher power and spiritualness. Rob?
One of the big places that when I did my 4-step is that people didn't do what I thought they should do, and became resentful about it. Now the thing is that I never told people what I thought they should do. It was I just expected them to do what I thought they should do. They should be able to read my mind. Here we're getting down to communication. Let's talk about it. What are you expecting out of the situation? Hey, we're on new footing. Our roots grasp new soil. You know, and the whole idea is communication. Okay. I can't just assume you're going to do what I want you to do.
Right.
Okay. So therefore, here we're coming down to communication now. Let's sit down as we communicate. And if we get heated about it, take a break. Well, we can revisit this. But the whole idea is to open up a whole new way of communicating instead of just assuming that you're going to do what I think you should do, and then I get resentments. Okay. And it's the same the other way around. My wife expects certain things out of me. And when I don't do them, she gets resentful. But if she doesn't tell me what she expects, other than there are certain things that we all expect: love, compassion, you know, to care for each other, to be where you're supposed to be, etc. You know, but dad may be a little bit balmy. I love that word. A little bit crazy, but balmy. He is
Yeah.
not so unbalanced as they might think. Many of us have experienced daddy's elation. We have indulged in spiritual intoxication. Like a gaunt prospector, belt drawn in over the last ounce of food, our pick struck gold. Joy at our release from a lifetime of frustration knew no bounds. Father feels he has struck something better than gold. For a time, he may try to hug the new treasure to himself. He may not see at once that he has barely scratched the limitless load which will pay dividends only if he mines it for the rest of his life and insists on giving away the entire product.
That's right. So this is an important message for the alcoholic that's recovering, and it is that um, there's going to have to be a lot of giving. Just like Rob said earlier, we're not takers, we're givers, and that's a hard thing to do. We've been used to doing it for a long time as alcoholics, and to shift and switch gears that fast and over a short period of time is quite the adjustment. Um, the and it may be that there's some initial kind of close holding of things, and that's going to have to just take a little bit of patience again and some understanding. And we keep coming back to this, but it's obviously going to have to require some good, and I mean that sincerely, good communication, because this is one of those difficult things for people to get through, because they want to be heard, they want their time, they want the recovering alcoholic to pay attention, and at the same time, the alcoholic is balancing and juggling some of these other aspects of their lives now, since they have now found a higher power. They're trying to work a lot to try to make up for lost income, and it's obvious that the family takes a hit, and it's got to be communicated, and it's got to be balanced. Rob?
He may not see at once that he has barely scratched the limitless load which will pay dividends only if he mines it for the rest of his life and insists on giving away the entire product. That is deep. That
Yeah.
is deep stuff there. The fact is that, we give it away so we can keep it. You know, not everybody wants it. Not everybody will take it. That's up, that's between them and God. Okay. But we plant the seed. Okay. And if it takes root, we continue on. Step 12 is all about that, is by working with somebody and trying to get them to have their spiritual experience so that they too can get beyond human aid, and have a new life, and a life that is so incredible. You know, my face hurts from smiling so much most of the time.
Mhm.
Why? Because I enjoy it so much. I get to meet with you people. I get to, go over the big book with people. I get to listen to Bill from New Jersey, who will tell you that, there's only two pieces of equipment that don't come with instructions, and that's a pick and a shovel. He can tell you why, but you can, and he'll tell you can get more work done with a pick and a shovel than you can with most other uh, tools. You know, and these are things that you learn along the way. And you can, I can pass them along to other people. But it's when we stop doing these things, stop doing the do things, that people end up going out. You hear of people that have 10, 15 years of sobriety and they've gone out again. And you wonder, well, what happened? I thought you had it all together. They stopped doing the things that kept them spiritually connected. They don't work with people. They stopped going to the fellowship. They stopped dealing with other alcoholics. Bill from New Jersey. I've got to say Bill from New Jersey instead of Bill from the big book. Uh, just so you know what I'm talking about. He talks about the grass cutter a lot of times, which is his analogies make a lot of sense to me. So that's why I use them. You know, is that yeah, we can go and we can help somebody cut their grass, and that'll make me a good grass cutter. If I work with another alcoholic, it's going to reinforce in me what I need to do to stay sober. And so that's why I work with other alcoholics, because it reinforces in me. Remember Bill Wilson, when he went and saw Dr. Bob. I'm not here to keep you sober. I'm here to keep myself sober. And if you stay sober in the meantime, so much the better. You know, it just, that's what it's all about. Page 129, everybody. If the family cooperates, Dad will soon see that he is suffering from a distortion of values. He will perceive that his spiritual growth is lopsided. That, for an average man like himself, his spiritual life, which does not include his family obligations, may not be so perfect after all. If the family will appreciate that Dad's current behavior is but a phase of his development, all will be well. If the family will appreciate that Dad's current behavior is but a phase of his development, all will be well. In the midst of an understanding and sympathetic family, these vulgarity of Dad's spiritual infancy will quickly disappear.
Yeah. And so there, it's a phase, and it does, it's new. You're excited about it. It's like that favorite song you want to listen to again and again. After a period of time, you start to go, okay, I don't need to listen to that anymore, at least not as often, that type of thing. Same thing here, kind of as a loose analogy, and that is that, over a period of time, you're going to find that, your spiritual self is strong, and it can stand not being fed 24 hours a day. And so you have now got the ability to start to focus on other things. What we're trying to do is get you to do that sooner than later, and trying to communicate this to the family. Again, if you're working this chapter with the family, all of this is coming out in those discussions. So that's probably one of the things that I would suggest, and that is that you make reference to this chapter if you were actually sitting down to have a family meeting to talk through some things, because they help open doors. This book can actually help open the door for good communication, and I keep saying that, but that's important. It really is the basis of everything, and that is good communication. And it has to be in a trusting environment and in an open environment as well. So, guess we've got a couple of things here to warn the alcoholic, the recovering alcoholic with, and at the same time, it's a good idea for the family to be aware of this so that they can actually reference it as they're having the discussions. Rob?
Yeah, the opposite may happen should the family condemn and criticize. Dad may feel that for years his drinking has placed him on the wrong side of every argument, but that now he has become a superior person with God on his side. If the family persists in criticism, this fallacy may take a still greater hold on Father. Instead of treating the family as he should, he may retreat further into himself and feel he has spiritual justification for doing so.
Yeah. And so this is a pitfall. This is an area where the recovering alcoholic can sit back and say, well, wait a minute, I've got God on my side, so I'm right, and I'm righteous, and that's a bad place to be. The family again is probably going to double down and criticize, and so that creates more problems. It creates the gap between good communication and bad communication is wider and wider, and the reference to bad communication is there, and it gets worse and worse. And so this is really just trying to get the family and the alcoholic, the recovering alcoholic, to understand this ahead of time and avoid the pitfalls that come with it. Rob?
Poor Dad. Dad may feel that for years his drinking has placed him on the wrong side of every argument. Poor me. I love that line. But now that he's got religion, he's superior. No, we care about other people. We put others' needs before our own. Though the family does not fully agree with Dad's spiritual activity, they should let him have his head, even if he displays a certain amount of neglect and irresponsibility towards the family. It is well to let him go as far as he likes in helping other alcoholics. During those first days of convalescence, this will do more to ensure his sobriety than anything else. Though some of his manifestations are alarming and disagreeable, we think Dad will be on a firmer foundation than the man who is placing business or professional success ahead of spiritual development. He will be less likely to drink again, and anything is preferable to that.
Yeah. So, um, again, this is now we're going into the assumption that the family is aware of this. The family does not fully agree with Dad's activities. They should let him have his head and work through them. Even if he displays a certain amount of neglect and irresponsibility towards the family, it is well to let him go as far as he likes in helping other alcoholics. Again, that helping of other alcoholics is ensuring the recovering alcoholics recovery. And so it's an important message to get across to the rest of the family so that they are aware of it and can at least be patient with them. And when we do talk about this during those first days of convalescence, this will be more of more to ensure sobriety than anything else. We're not talking about a year's worth of convalescence. We're talking about just a little bit of time so that this can be solidified with the alcoholic. So with that that foundation, if it's built right, then it's going to carry over into the family, and that's going to benefit the family going forward. And it certainly is going to help with business and professional activities as well. So there is some benefit to allowing the spiritual side of things to kind of develop and unfold, and at the same time working with other alcoholics to the max extent possible, especially in the beginning, is very, very helpful in ensuring the alcoholic's recovery, as we've just said. So with that, good communication can be fostered. A good work ethic and a good balance in life also can occur. Rob?
Yeah, and it says here on the bottom of page 129, during the first days of convalescence, his healing, his recovery, this will do more to ensure sobriety than anything else, helping other people. Okay. This book, you hear in the fellowship sometimes, you got to wait a year before you can work with other people or you can help somebody else. This book does not say that. This book says, during the first few days, you can help somebody else. Now you can't take them through the steps because you can't give something away that you yourself don't have, but you can help somebody else. Somebody brand new coming in, their first day of sobriety, and you've got a week, 2 weeks. How did you get 2 weeks? My God, I've been struggling. You can help somebody. Show them where the coffee is, show them where the washroom is. Just make them feel welcome.
Mhm.
A lot of times, they always say that, when you hug a newcomer when they come into the room, why? Put the fire out. You come back and put the fire out. The fellowship, they feel so useless, unloved, uncared for. They don't, so it's, when I came into the fellowship and people gave me a hug and said, welcome, you're where you belong. Wow. I didn't feel like I deserved to be anywhere. So, and Danny, I agree with you 100%. I love that notion of what a hug does, makes you feel like you belong, makes you feel welcome. Assume, on the other hand, that Father has at the outset a stirring spiritual experience. Overnight, as it were, he is a different man. He becomes a religious enthusiast. He is unable to focus on anything else. As soon as his sobriety begins to be taken as a matter of course, the family may look at their strange new dad with apprehension, then with irritation. There is talk about spiritual matters morning, noon, and night. He may demand that the family find God in a hurry or exhibit amazing indifference to them and say he is above worldly considerations.
Yep. I think I've lost my place there, Rob. I apologize.
No, because I haven't finished yet.
Okay.
I just, for some reason, I had stopped there, and I don't know why. He may tell mother, who has been religious all her life, that she doesn't know what it's all about, and that she had better get his brand of spirituality while there is yet time. Sorry about that, Leo. I didn't mean to throw you off. For some reason,
No, it's
I had
okay.
to stop.
It's just, this is really, this is good. The idea here is that, you know, there really shouldn't be a lot of demands made. That's part of this as far as that goes. There should be suggestions, there should be dialogue, there should be a back and forth, there should be an opportunity to express your resentments and your wants and your needs. But at the same time, you need to be able to accept the other's um, uh, opinions and their place, their situation. You know, you're going to want to spend time with the kids. You're going to want to spend time with the spouse. It's an important. It really is an important element in recovery, and that is getting the family back into a healthy situation in place. And doing that is just as important as the spiritual side of things, as is the work side of things, as is working with other alcoholics. Bottom line is that that's what we're talking about. So, Rob?
Yeah, assume on the other hand, the father has at the outset a stirring spiritual experience. Well, who had a stirring spiritual experience? Bill Wilson in the town's hospital. Also Fitz Mayo, who, fell down beside his bed and said, if there is a God, show himself to me now. They had a spiritual experience. Okay? Not everybody has a spiritual experience. They have a spiritual awakening, which is created over time. Most people see it before you yourself realize that it's happened. Bill tried to hit these people with his spiritual experience. You have to get this spiritual experience. Most people don't get it. They don't get that spiritual experience, the white light experience. Okay? What we do is we change. We start thinking about other people more than we think about ourselves. What can I do for Chicken today? What can I do for Danny, Dee Dee, Pam, Therese, Andrew and Susan? What can I do for these people today? How can I make their day just a little bit better? I'm not going to be able to make big changes in your life, but you know what? I can make a small one and just be, friendly, smile. How are you today? How are you doing? And really mean it. Bill had the spiritual experience, tried to hammer it home to these other people, and didn't work. Dr. Silkworth told him, hey, Bill, back off with the white light experience. Deflate their egos by telling them about the medical issues. And that is what Bill did. He learned that from Dr. Silkworth and took it to Dr. Bob. Sat down with Dr. Bob, talked one-on-one, one alcoholic talking to another. You can get through where most other people can't. And that's what it's all about. When father takes this tack, the family may react unfavorably. They may be jealous of a God who has stolen dad's affections. While grateful that he drinks no more, they may not like the idea that God has accomplished a miracle where they failed. They often forget father was beyond human aid. They may not see why their love and devotion did not straighten them out. Dad is not so spiritual after all, they say. If he means to right his past wrong, all this concern for everyone in the world but his family. What about his talk that God will... I've read this part, haven't I? That's why I stopped earlier. Thank you, Danny. You're, that's
I
what...
was like, I was like, is it me? Because you know my week, and I'm like, what? Maybe it was the Friday meeting.
Well, and it wasn't until I see Balmy here that I realized that, I've read this.
I had to
Oh,
hear this twice. I
you know
Yeah.
what?
did.
Yeah,
God.
and I think that's what it's all about. Oh, well, I'll be okay.
Uh,
Okay, so we're on page 130. I apologize to everybody, but Kicken sent me a note and saying, God, and I had stopped thinking, have I read this? Have I not read it? But you know what? God wanted me to read that again. You might not have needed to hear that again, but I did. So we're on page 130, everybody. Again, I
Yep.
apologize. Those of us who have spent much time in this world of spiritual make-believe have eventually seen the childness of it. This dream world has been replaced by a great sense of purpose, accompanied by a growing consciousness of the power of God in our lives. We had come to believe He would like us to keep our heads in the clouds with Him, but that our feet ought to be firmly planted on earth. That is where our fellow travelers are, and that is where our work must be done. These are the realities for us. We have found nothing incompatible between a powerful spiritual experience and a life of sane and happy usefulness.
Boy, the to achieve sane and happy usefulness, that's a goal, and one that seems to take a bit of a journey to get there. It's quite the adventure. So the this is just basically I highlighted this paragraph because I like it so much. The dream world has been replaced by a great sense of purpose, accompanied by a growing consciousness of the power of God, and in our lives, and really just in everything. I my higher power is definitely something that I rely upon for a lot of things, and it's gotten to be now where it's almost as if I don't actively search for it. It just happens. It's more of a habit, and I like it that way, because it's really become good for me in that regard. Um, but having your head in the clouds and your feet firmly planted on the ground, what a what a utopian place to be. It's a difficult thing to do, but one that is achievable through a really good, sound approach. Rob?
I got my finger where I got to start reading, Leo, just so you know that. One more suggestion. Whether the family has spiritual convictions or not, they may do well to examine the principles by which the alcoholic member is trying to live. They can hardly fail to approve these simple principles, though the head of the house still fails somewhat practicing them. Nothing will help the man who is off on a spiritual tangent so much as the wife who adopts the same spiritual program, making a better practical use of it.
Yep, and that's the really the crux of everything. Whether the family is coming along or not, the principles are something that could be. Imagine having this as a guide and being able to actually have good family sit down meetings, taking those principles and putting them out, and talking about them either individually or in a group, as far as that goes. The it is definitely um, something that will make these conversations easier, is where I'm trying to go here. And that is that um, the the idea here is it's hard for the family not to agree upon and adhere to those principles, and in doing that, they are coming along as well, whether they're spiritual or not. That can come either later or maybe not at all, but then just as an agreement that these principles are worth looking into. Rob?
Yeah, put up with his zeal and he will calm down. or she will calm down, whoever, you know, in the family. Originally with the Oxford group, they used to have what they called quiet time, where everybody would sit around, they would read passages from the Bible, and they'd have a meditation or what they called quiet time, where they would listen to what God, had to say. And the family would take part in this. Now we go to the fellowship, and it's usually only the alcoholic that goes, you know. And, I know that when I first went to the meetings, I would come home, and my wife would say, "What are you getting at these meetings that you're not getting at home?" And I've mentioned this before, and I'm going to mention it just in case somebody hasn't heard this before. And so I talked to some of the long timers, because I don't like to call them old timers, people that have been around a long time. They said, "Bring her out to the meeting, see what's going on at the meeting, so she understands, and she can see what you're getting out of the meetings and who you're hanging around with and the people that are in the meetings." And I did that, and my wife enjoyed it, and she became more relaxed about it and understood that, what, there's a lot of laughter and a lot of fun at the meetings. Yeah, we're dealing with a deadly disease, but we laugh an awful lot. Why? Because we come out the other side, most of us. And you know what? God wants us to be free. He doesn't want us to be miserable. Hey, if sobriety was just misery, would I want it? No, I want to be happy, joyous, and free. I want to be life. Now it's time to turn that frown upside down, and enjoy life. And that's what this spiritual experience has given me. It's allowed me to smile again and to realize that, what, I'm not the center of the universe. I'm just a small part of it. And I can make a small change by helping somebody else. And that's what it's all about, is helping somebody else, because that takes me out of myself. There will be other profound changes in the household.
Hey, Rob,
Liquor, yes, sir.
I was going to say, this is a section we can get started on the next one. It's those 8 changes that happen, and this is the very beginning of that. So why don't we hold off on that for next time, and we'll bring Bill in.
Perfect. Thanks, Leo.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Bill.
Yeah, hi, this is Bill, alcoholic from New Jersey. Thanks a lot, guys. Good job today. This is a good chapter here that Bill wrote, and what he's talking about here, he's trying to give some advice or some suggestions to the family, because Bill understood that if the family gets better, there's a better chance for the alcoholic to get better. If your family still stays, because the family is usually crazy after what we did to them, the way we were drinking. Even if we didn't do anything specifically to them, we ignored them. We weren't where we were supposed to do. We didn't take care of our obligations. And the family is usually all pissed off and mad, and they're walking on eggshells. And if the family doesn't start to get better, it's going to be harder for the alcoholic to get better, because most people spend most of their time with their family. So Bill understood that. So he wrote this to the family. And on page 129, that first new paragraph, this is a really good paragraph where it says, if the family cooperates, Dad will soon see that he is suffering from distortion of values. I was told that if you're having a problem with some kind of family problems, read this paragraph. It basically says that your spiritual growth is lopsided if you don't include your family obligations. A lot of people think that they live to go to AA, and they ignore their family. I have to go to 5 meetings today, and I have to make the coffee and stop and get the cookies and help clean up and all of this, and they wind up ignoring their family. We're doing the same thing that we did when we were drinking. So that your spiritual life is lopsided when you're doing that. You have to include your family in your spiritual life. You have certain obligations. There's a certain amount of quality time you're supposed to spend with your family. There's a certain amount of things you're supposed to be doing with your family. And if you ignore your family, your spiritual life is not going to grow that well. because it's not working right. It's supposed to encompass everything in your life, your spiritual life, not just going back and forth to AA meetings and drinking coffee and eating donuts and talking about your cat and dog and your crummy car and your rotten job. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to go to AA so that we can live our life. And part of your life is your family life. So that's a really good paragraph there. And you can use that paragraph, read that over and over again whenever you're having some kind of family turmoil or any kind of problems, because that can help you get through that stuff. In other words, you got to look at yourself and realize that you're lopsided with your spiritual development, because all you're doing is trying to go to meetings and do what AA says, and you're not taking care of your family. And AA does tell us, it says it right here, that we're supposed to be taking care of our family obligations, not just going to meetings and help them pick up the coffee cups and the ashtrays and put away the chairs. There's a lot more to life than just going to AA meetings. And down at the bottom of that page, it tells us, says, it is well to let him go as far as he likes in helping other alcoholics. During those first days of convalescence, this will do more to ensure his sobriety than anything else. I constantly have heard in AA, you're not allowed to do anything for a year. You can't help anybody for a year. That's not what this book says. This book says during the first days of convalescence. That means the first days you're getting better. The first days that you're starting to recover. You're supposed to do whatever you can for other alcoholics, because that's going to do more for your sobriety than anything else. That's AA's fix for alcoholism. That's the answer. That's the treatment, if you want to call it. The treatment for alcoholism is to try to help other alcoholics. Whether you have 1 day or 10 years or whatever, you're supposed to try to help other alcoholics. Yeah, the first days you don't know the steps. You can't take somebody through the steps, but you can tell them what you did that day so that you didn't have to pick up a drink. You can show them where there's good meetings. You can get them a meeting book. You can show them where the coffee is. You can show them where the donuts are. You can tell them, point them out to some of the, if you want to call them old timers or long timers in the meetings that know the steps. And hey, these guys over here, they can explain the steps to you. This is the people you need to talk to. Here's a good book over here, the 12 and 12 or the big book or whatever. You could still help somebody. So don't think you have to wait a year. The first days that you're sober, you can help somebody else get sober. You're ready to start helping somebody as soon as the puke dries on your shoes. You don't have to wait a year. I don't know where that came from, but there's no such thing as a year in this book. This book doesn't say you have to wait a year to do anything. And again, what Bill is doing here with this chapter, he's trying to get the point across to the family, and he's also trying to get the point across to the alcoholic that the family has to get better also. You know, if you go to meetings and you get better while you're at a meeting and your family doesn't get better, and then you come home and you have to deal with people that are still acting a little bit crazy, remember, they're crazy because of what we did. We made them crazy because we ignored them, because of the way we treated them, because of what we did when we were drinking. So they're walking on eggshells. And if they're still walking on eggshells when you're sober, it's going to be harder for everybody to get along with each other. And when we don't get along with people, you know what we do? We go out and drink over it, because we like to drink at people. That's what we do as alcoholics. Oh, yeah? You people aren't going to go along with me? I'll show you a thing or two. Watch what I can do to me. That's what we do. So you really, really, really have to deal with your family. And that's your responsibility once you get sober. Your responsibility is now to pick up on your family obligations and do what you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's not emphasized enough in AA. Everybody talks about going to meetings and not picking up the first drink and all. That's all great, wonderful, marvelous stuff to do. But there's other things outside of AA that's part of our life that we're supposed to do. Again, we don't live to go to AA. We go to AA so that we can live our life. And that's pretty much what these last chapters in this book are about. That's pretty much all I got. Thanks a lot for letting me share.
Thank you so much, Bill.
All right. We'll go ahead and close out with the serenity prayer.
And let's close. You got it. You know, I want to go to Bill's meetings. They always have donuts. You know, in Toronto, we have still cookies if we're lucky. You know, he's always got donuts. Serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
Thanks, Robbie. I will do.